destruction is not only of artifacts and ancient sites, that's an important part of it, but also, and maybe first of all, of human beings and all of the relations that make us up and the relations that we are part of with each other in communities. And particularly, that cultural destruction attacks the person whose work of caring for everyone in families and communities makes all of that culture possible, which of course, as we all know, is women. That is the work that women do around the world, and it's why women are always, as in the case of your organisation and our own, are always at the heart of anti-war movements and other survival struggles. So that orientation focuses me as a professional on the conflicts of interest that will inevitably, I mean, they have to arise between my work as a professional and the survival struggles of grassroots people in all these horrific situations that they're facing around the world. In an ideal world, it shouldn't be like this, and there shouldn't be that conflict, but we don't live in that world. We have to fight for that kind of world. Tahrir asked me particularly to speak this evening about incidents that occurred, or events that occurred last year at a global conference of archaeologists that took place in Dublin. It happens every 4 years. It's the biggest world organisation of archaeologists, called the World Archaeological Congress. And it's actually a very good example what happened there of some of the things that you mentioned already, and even more broadly, what we are all facing from both multinational corporations and militaries, beginning with the US military, and how they are using professions like archaeology. The background to World Archaeological Congress, or WAC as it's known, the background to this organisation is that it was founded in the 1980s in the context of the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. And this organisation, it was holding its first conference here in Britain, and it implemented the boycott by banning academics from South Africa and Namibia from attending. So really excellent start, very principled kind of start. And they also did many other things, like opened up the conference to people who are not archaeologists, who of course have not only concerns but are absolutely dedicated to preserving and defending their culture, particularly indigenous people at that time who were very much in conflict with professional archaeologists because of the way in which archaeologists were removing their, as they saw it, their cultural material, wanting back the human remains that are in museums here in Europe, and so on. WAC in Dublin last year unfortunately slid a long way from those principles, including in relation to Iraq. My involvement was what happened. I was asked by the movement in Ireland, because I used to be on the executive of this organisation, to try to press for a debate about very corrupt and destructive development projects, including this kind of thing that we're facing in Ireland at the moment, a lot of problems with roads in particular. When we were in the process of doing that, struggling for that, we realised that the US military had been invited to this World Conference of Archaeologists. Not only invited, but they were organising, co-organising sessions at the conference. And of course, what were they speaking about? About their great work of saving cultural heritage in Iraq. And the future of that work, including setting up formal structures with sectors of the profession of archaeology to basically for future wars and occupations, and how would they work in these situations. So immediately, of course, we raised this with the anti-war movement, who went along and did protest and went into those sessions and so on. We tried to raise it in the media, tried to get a debate going about that. In the end, we did get a debate. It mainly was about one site, one particular issue to do with a development in Ireland, but of course we tried to bring in all of these other questions as well. The huge struggle that we had, even to get this debate about one place in Ireland, was definitely influenced by the presence of the US military at this Congress, and that was a very ominous factor. And it seems to be happening more and more. I've heard of other conferences since, and I've heard of archaeologists, anti-war archaeologists even, being invited to conferences and then finding out that the military is also appearing at. You were one of those, yes, invited, and people have refused.
I withdrew from the conference when I discovered the general from the British military was going to be on the same panel.
Yeah. The other factors that were preventing the discussion included the fact that the Congress was sponsored by Rio Tinto, which you may know is a multinational mining conglomerate which has done immense damage and destruction to communities around the world, and was also sponsored by Irish developers, including the Roads Authority, which is implementing all of these developments in Ireland. So, of course, we spoke about all of that in the media at the time. What we were asking WAC to decide was, will you support communities who are struggling against cultural destruction around the world, including in Iraq, including in Ireland? Will you defend the autonomy of our profession and us as professionals, that we are not going to be bought off and tied up with these multinationals and warmongers? And just fundamentally, what are our ethics? Where are our ethics? In the end, there was no clear statement that emerged from the Congress, either against corrupt development or against war and occupation. A number of my colleagues, two colleagues in particular from the UK, Dr. Yanis Hamalakis and Dr. Umberto Alvarella, proposed a resolution against war to be voted on, by everyone at the Congress in the plenary session. And it was particularly focused on against war on Iran, there was an imminent threat at that point. But it included a second part, which was that professionals will not, engage with militaries, and particularly the US military, in advance of these planned wars and occupations or any other kind of aggression, and advise them or contract to them and so on. Now, both bits of that were passed at the plenary session, so everyone, all the archaeologists present, agreed to that. But the part about professionals was removed by the executive of WAC afterwards. So, basically condoning the continuation of this kind of work.
So resolution was passed?
By the plenary session, by all of the archaeologists in attendance at the conference.
But when it was published, this was removed?
Yes, because the resolutions go to the executive, the overall governing body of WAC for kind of ratification, and they say, anyway, that they have these kind of powers to, remove bits of the resolutions and so on. And they removed that part, the really crucial part for professionals. Afterwards, we continued to raise debate about it, and we wrote about it in, for example, the Irish Times. There is copies of some of the articles down there at the back. It led to a national debate in Ireland, which was very good, and is contributing to a growing international debate about the role of professionals and what happened at that Congress. And I personally received an outpouring of emails and phone calls. Hundreds and hundreds of archaeologists contacted me saying, they felt in this situation where they were being put under pressure every single day to compromise professional standards and ethics in all of these kind of situations, whether it's here in Europe or whether it's in Iraq or the US or anywhere. And they wanted this pushed forward to really defend our principles. And the reason that we kept on going with this debate and publicising it is that the implications are very serious. There is now more and more pressure on professionals. I mean, we're talking about archaeologists tonight, but it applies to all of the professions, to collaborate with occupations and life-threatening developments. And it's got to the point where in the public media, if you raise this other perspective, they talk to you like you're a lunatic. You have no common sense. It's common sense to just go and do salvage archaeology ahead of developments. It's common sense to just work with the occupiers, with the coalition in Iraq or whatever. But if we give up our autonomy, if we give up that easily, our work will end up supporting genocide, and in the process we will also end up supporting the destroyers of culture. We will